Several of the created climate champions have initiated programs, projects, and activities within their communities across Uganda. Through such actions, these climate champions are enabling their communities to become more resilient under a changing climate. That way, they are contributing to creating and supporting an enabling environment, building climate change capacity, and improving local readiness to plan and undertake adaptation responses, mainly for agriculture production systems and community-based and district local government development functions. Emmanuel Bwenje, a climate champion in Isingiro district, has to address climate change impacts on a daily basis and gives guidance on mitigation measures to farmers, communities, and his district.
Isingiro district lies within the cattle corridor, which is greatly impacted and affected by impacts of climate change and especially drought. And specifically last year, the drought was so devastating that we lost some cattle, we lost banana plantations, Isingiro being the biggest producer of banana in the country. We are no longer producing the bananas as usual, and many households were greatly affected. So specifically for drought, as a result of the challenges faced at the household level, at farming level, and the district as a whole, a lot of revenue was affected. Households lost livelihoods, individuals lost incomes, and many of the youths were rendered workless. So the interventions that we have implemented as a result of stresses of water, households are putting up water harvesting tanks. We are beginning to do mixed enterprises like piggery. We are doing the tree nurseries for additional income. We are doing fruit growing for income generation, for nutrition, as well as environmental conservation. We are doing trenches for water harvesting, runoff on the ground into banana plantations. We are doing mulching to make sure that the water that comes as rain is maximally used for crop production and increase the returns on investment on farming.
I identified the crops that can still do well in the happenings of climate change, that is drought. And among them we have pawpaws, we have the indigenous yams.
Mr. Aloysius Tumwikirize is a farmer within Kazo village in Kabulinnaga sub-county, Mubende district. Following participation in the Mukri Climate Champion training, Aloysius implemented select adaptation practices and technologies on his farm. This has greatly improved his farm harvest despite the prolonged droughts Kazo has faced in the recent past. His pampa harvest intrigued his community, which caused him to create Kazo Climate Change Village to have an all-year-round exhibition of good adaptation practices within participating households of Kazo Climate Change Village.
This is my innovation. I don't know how to call it, but at the back of my mind, I was looking at how people living in sturdy buildings can have gardens on their verandas. So we are saying, if you can have this, you can have enough veggies to eat and even some to sell. I was like, how can I exhibit these technologies, these practices, these ideas, these policies, such that others can come and learn from me? So when I looked around, I was like, can I get about 13 households? And these 13 households can serve as my stalls in my exhibition. And from organizing these households, I had a view behind that we shall just integrate the science in our day-to-day operations, such that things doesn't appear different from what we have been doing.
In Masaka district, there are 3 climate champions working with the communities in public-private partnerships.
Miss Josephine Chiza, a climate change champion from Busense village, Masaka district, is a teacher by profession who has practiced organic farming for over 15 years. Together with her family, she established the St. Jude Family Project, through which she has been training her community and communities around the country in organic farming.
We give trainings at this center, and mainly the trainings that we give call for 75% of their time doing practicals so that they can understand better. And then 25% of the time here is the time that we give out for theory. And we've found this very effective because people will leave this place after knowing exactly what they are going to do.
This project you are seeing here was initiated by St. Jude together with the Scope Uganda.
So we are working with a school. It's called Butaya Primary School. It is 3 kilometers from here. So we found that school when it was totally bare. So we decided to transform this very deserty ground into a food hub so that children can learn climate care, environmental care, at the same time getting food on that very ground. We mulched the ground and then we began planting food there. And now children are getting vegetables on this ground that was formerly a desert. Today, the same ground looks like this.
We have a slogan that says, feed the soil so that it feeds you. And every member in his or her language is singing this slogan.
Mr. John Mark Tamale is an agriculture input dealer within Masaka Town, Masaka District. After participating in the Mukri Climate Champions training, John Mark partnered with the Masaka local government to establish the Jerumat Agri Investments and Climate Smart Training Center and Demonstration Site.
What we are doing here, because it is now a full training center for farmers in climate change innovations and some good practices in agriculture. So we normally receive farmers from different areas, farmers from different villages, and farmers within Masaka district and outside Masaka to come here and train in climate smart agriculture practices.
He now leads the Masaka Climate Agents Network, CAN, and has also incorporated providing training and climate change information to his agro-inputs customers.
Now, we decide to form a network of farmers and the other stakeholders in the community so that to continue, disseminate and send messages to different stakeholders and farmers about climate and environmental restoration.
Mr. Kabango Fred is the Masaka District Agriculture Officer, a key government official in providing, leasing the district land at Chijabweni Vocational School, on which Jerumat Agri Investments and Climate Smart Training Center and Demonstration Site is established.
So what have we done as a district? Our challenge has always been involving youth in this kind of cause. So what we did, we earmarked land at one of our rehabilitation centers in Chijabwemi, gave it to our youth to use it as a demonstration site to the rest of our people in this district and those outside the district to learn what we call smart agricultural activities.
These climate champions are helping communities to assess their potential for adaptation and mitigation actions and how communities can benefit from undertaking these measures.
The ever-increasing role of students and the other young people in climate action cannot be overemphasized. Beyond being early adapters and their high potential as climate action change agents, students can be a critical mass for good in their communities and workplaces when they complete school. MOCRI has initiated a youth program through activities such as the Youth Climate Change Bootcamp, which is a multi-part program for university students.
Makerere University Center for Climate Change Research and Innovations was set up in the College of Agricultural Sciences to promote climate change research, teaching, and outreach in a collaborative and multidisciplinary manner, so that you have staff from the various colleges and disciplines coming together to form groups on the different themes of climate change and work together.
A boot camp is a short, intensive and rigorous course of training for university students to deliver climate change adaptation information to different audiences and communities.
Majorly, we were doing capacity building, and we were much enriched with the knowledge about climate change. And another thing, we were grouped into we were put into different groups. And me specifically, I was in the campus engagement group, because there were 3 groups: the campus engagement, the community engagement, and then schools engagement. Me specifically, I was in the campus engagement, and I happened to be even the team leader of the campus engagement. So when we were put in those different groups, like for example in campus engagement, we were tasked to come up with different activities that we would implement when we go back to our universities.
I have benefited from the MOCRI youth activities. One way, of course, has been building my capacity in really understanding what climate change is. And so through that understanding, it has helped me to really understand the topic, and I was really passionate about it. So one of the benefits that I got from participation was that I really got to understand what climate change was and looking at the different solutions that people could take. And since then, I've been advancing within my career in really understanding the topic more and more, and that's why I'm here today, where I work today.
MOCRI, through ERICA support, they have funded a number of students to conduct climate change research, though this is in partnership with other partners like the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, IITA, like NARO, National Agricultural Research Organization, and very many other partners that MOCRI has worked with. So some of the students have either conducted undergraduate research, master's research, PhD research. Some have completed the PhD. Research students are ongoing.
Winfred Nachagawa is one of the PhD students doing research in robusta coffee production, climate related, at plot level of central Uganda, with support from USAID through MOCRI, NARO, and IITA.
In 2014, we collected samples for the whole garden. You see this gentleman's garden is from there up to there. We collected soil samples to give us a picture of what is happening here. Then, when we came to set up the plots, we again collected soil samples from each of these plots. So we have 36 soil samples. We are going to rate the data because we have an objective. Objective number 2 is assessing the effect of edaphic factors. Edaphic, these are soils, on the incidences of pests and diseases.
ERICA support to students under MOCRI is not limited to Makerere University students, but extended to students from other universities in the country.
MOCRI already has established an established research base on climate change, and it is fairly new here in Barra. So we thought by starting off at least with the undergraduate students and seeing how they perform and perhaps taking it up to postgraduate level would be something very interesting.
My research project, I'm one of the students that got chance to be part of the MOCRI and MAST scholarship grant for the undergraduate students. My main focus was drought, a threat to food security, and then gender-based responses at household level in Isingiro district, southwestern Uganda. As I focused to look at food crop farmers, drought has greatly affected yields, and the more frequent it becomes is the more the yields deteriorate, and that entirely means that the incomes and livelihoods of these farmers that are dependent on crops continue to deteriorate.
For us as NARO, when the students write their proposals, okay, the university has 1 year for coursework and 1 year for research. Now for us, in the 1 year for research, they choose a research topic where they go to the field to meet farmers or plant experiments, and so that's the kind of work we support. We give them like night allowances to go and sleep in the field for whatever specified period. Then we give them, that includes accommodation, meals, and also communication.
With Uganda's rain-fed agriculture sector dependent on the goodwill of Mother Nature, the farming societies are now worried about the continuing unpredictability of season patterns, which makes it difficult to be sure about when to plant. This has adverse effects on food security and indeed income for a sector that employs over 80% of Ugandans.
Farmers always plant around the 25th of February for the first season of March, and around the 15th of August for the second season. And that is how it has always been done, time immemorial. Those are the kind of the traditional cropping cycles that we've been having. But then now, we realize that sometimes the rains come as late as April, and sometimes they come as late as October, when the farmers have already sowed their seed. So what always happens, definitely their crops will die, and they'll lose out on good yield. So how we are trying to address this gap is we want to quantify this change. We want to do a statistical quantification of this purported change. Then we see how, if it is significant statistically, and then we can be able to make better choices or better decisions.
I would call upon other key players in climate change to partner and work with MOCRI, the climate champions and the students' agents, to be able to not only sustain the climate change initiatives that are already established at the community level, but also to be able to scale them up. And any support in terms of technical training, in terms of capacity building, in terms of funding would go a long way to be able to prepare Uganda's community to address the impacts of climate change.